Well, God bless you one and all, and welcome back to the Bishop's Corner. And of course, my name is Bishop Dr. Herbert N. Scott, the Chief Prelate of the Liberty Hall Cathedral of Praise right here in the heart of Brooklyn. Thank you very, very much for weighing in tonight. We also must thank the good Lord for Philip Reed, who is the CEO of Phoenix National Business Group. Philip, thank you very much, young man. Job well done. We want to thank the Lord for the panel that we do have tonight. Unfortunately, the Right Reverend Dr. Heather Francis and the Apostle Lucien Rojas will not be weighing in, unfortunately, but our prayers are definitely with them. We also want to thank God tonight for the Bishop Dr. Neville Wolliston, all the way from Connecticut, that is with us. Can we just welcome the man of God? God bless you, man of God. And we also want to thank God for Richard McKenzie, Pastor Richard McKenzie from Brooklyn. And you all know that great things come from Brooklyn. We want to thank God for a wonderful young lady that we have on. She's been a tower of strength to the Bishop's Corner, and we just want to welcome once again Marjorie Mayer Riley that's with us. Woman of God, thank you very, very much for weighing in tonight. And also we want to thank God for this great man of God that has so much knowledge concerning the subject matter, Oscar Capel. Oscar, indeed, sir, it is a pleasure just to have you on the Bishop's Corner. Well, we have a very, very interesting program for you. Yes, our main topic tonight is this: how safe is your church? How safe is your church? But there is definitely something behind that question. We will be using the subtopic child predators, human trafficking, and sex trafficking. Oh yes, can you imagine these things are happening in our society, in our day? Well, before we should go in to the program and ask so many questions that we know these two experts can answer, okay, we just want to play a video, and we'll be asking you to please pay special attention to this video. Dr. Phil, it's in your hands.
I never dreamed that I would work in Haiti. I didn't know anything really about Haiti until I learned about a little boy who was born in Utah, U.S. citizen, and was kidnapped in Haiti from his church, where his father was the pastor. I read about it in the local newspaper. I thought that I could make it into a U.S. case, and I couldn't because it wasn't. We had to leave our jobs. I had to leave my job because I just had to do something about it. We went to Haiti to look for his son.
Yeah, it's right here, right here.
And we never found him.
People weren't talking about human trafficking like they are now. And really it's because of the work and efforts by organizations like Operation Underground Railroad.
It's a subject that nobody wants to think about or talk about. It's the worst part of humanity.
Okay. Wow.
And yet, we've got to do something about it.
Please, get on the ground right now. Get on the ground. Get on the ground right now. Get on the ground. Put that down right on the ground.
Every 30 seconds, a child is sold. They're sold for sex. They're sold for labor. They're sold for organ harvesting, which is something we're now getting into. There's 6 million children that are forced into one of those three categories right now, and the world doesn't know.
Not a lot of people know, but the profile for men who travel abroad to have sex with kids are American citizens.
The U.S. creates the demand. The highest producer and consumer of child pornography is right here in the United States.
Well, if you lost one of your children to one of these evil people, you'd do anything to get even and get your child back.
I had a knock on my door one day. Tim said, listen, I really feel like I can do better leaving the government.
I'd find a group of kids in Guatemala or Colombia And I couldn't do anything about it because it wasn't a U.S. case. It's outside of the jurisdiction, and I understood that. However, that doesn't mean that we couldn't be doing more.
Tim Ballard left his law enforcement career, everything that he knew, his pension, his security, to start a nonprofit called Operation Underground Railroad. They've done jumps everywhere throughout the world, rescued kids, and then helped them get to a safe place with their aftercare programs.
He had a way that we could really make an impact, but they needed $1 million to start. And I said, I'm in.
We had set up this operation that looked like it went flawless.
We unfortunately got some very frustrating news.
The traffickers were being released and that all the girls were released.
They paid money to the right people, to the judges. The job's not quite done, but it's almost done because now we need to go back and we need to rearrest every single one of these traffickers. It will be a message to Haiti, to America, to the whole world, that there are good people everywhere that will stand up for this.
Wow, can you imagine that? 6 million children are forced into this. Wow, this is something that we definitely have to have the conversation about. I would like to ask Oscar and Marjorie this afternoon, what really is human trafficking? What really is human trafficking?
Marjorie, you want to start? You're muted. All right.
Oh, you can start, Oscar. That's fine.
Okay.
And I'll chime in.
So first, thank you, Bishop, and everyone on the Phoenix National Network for bringing this very tough conversation to light. A little background first with me, Bishop. You know, I am not an expert, but I know a little bit more than I did yesterday, and a little bit more than I knew a couple of days ago. So my background is I am an associate with Legal Shield and ID Shield. And about a year and a half ago, our line of sponsorship found out about Operation Underground Railroad. And they said, every time we sell a policy, we will be donating to Operation Underground Railroad to help stop child sex trafficking. As Tony Robbins said, it takes about $10,000 to mount a campaign to do a rescue. And I believe I just heard that we are up to 7 rescues. So that's $70,000 that was gained by the entire group that is putting this together. And when I was talking about Legal Shield a couple of shows ago, I brought up that we are donating to Operation Underground Railroad, and you guys basically said, stop. What is this, and what do we need to know about it? So we're back here today. Hopefully we'll have someone from Operation Underground Railroad soon to be speaking, you know, with authority. But I am just a citizen. I'm a volunteer. I donate money myself, but my job now is to get the word out in my area, to let people know that this exists, and it is something that nobody talks about. So human trafficking it's either kidnapping children, putting them into slavery, or older people, putting them into slavery. The slave trade has never stopped. It is actually bigger now than it was in 1800, and we just don't know about it. It's just not known. So this is going on, and we need to stop it, and we need to bring it to light, because as we spoke about, big corporations don't care. They don't need this, you know, associated with them, even though that would be a great thing. But it's got to be a grassroots effort. It's got to be individuals, families, churches, groups that get together and actually do make a difference.
Okay, Marjorie, would you like to weigh in?
I agree. Yes. When it comes to human trafficking, what tends to happen, my background is child welfare as well. So you will see children who may run away, they're prostituted. Sometimes children are taken for the harvesting of their organs as well. they're forced into this. Sometimes they may have sex for food, for drugs, a place to stay, something of value. But children are being taken against their will. It's not something they're willfully doing, and it's happening very frequently in our neighborhoods, very close to us. And sometimes we think it's some other person's problem, and we really don't know how deep it goes until it affects one of us. But it's very, very present. Even when we begin to screen cases that comes into my agency, we have to do a sex trafficking screen on every single child that enters preventive programs, because trafficking has gained so much attention and awareness now, and kids are being taken.
I was watching a video this afternoon, and it stated that this sex trafficking business is the fastest criminal activity. It's growing so quickly. Yep. Now, the question that I want to put to the both of you, okay, is this. How does this really affect us? Or does it really affect us?
It affects everybody. You probably know there's probably someone that is a predator in your neighborhood. And with the ID Shield app, I can put a perimeter around my house and look out 5, 10, or 15 miles outside of where I live, and it will tell me where the registered sex offenders are. It's not where every sex offender, it's just the registered ones. So it's our neighbors, and if I can share the screen for a second, I think I'll make the point here. This I did at 4:30 today. So this is 3 pages letting me know, as you see, 20 new sex offenders found in your area, and this is within a 10-mile radius of where I live. So these are registered sex offenders that, as we said before, they're our neighbors. They're a couple of blocks away from us, and we don't know. So we need to know, A, where the sex offenders are. That's step number 1. 2, we need to educate our children. As Marjorie said earlier, there are children that are being lured into it. As we know, every kid has angst. Parents don't understand me. They don't like me. The whole thing. Especially now with the internet, it is so easy to get so far away from the family and be drawn to someone that really cares about you. Really, here's a phone, here's some new clothes. And Marjorie, can you tell us what the profile is of this type of predator?
Oof. I'm telling you, they really begin to groom the child or the individual that they're looking to put into that, situation to be trafficked. They groom them in a way where you can trust me. I'm your friend. I have this for you. I know your family's giving you a hard time, but you can trust me. I wouldn't do that to you. You can come here. We're safe. Safe place for you, and they use those type of mind manipulation games to pull the child into a situation where now the child is emotionally dependent on the trafficker or on the predator versus being dependent on their family. It's very skillful. Even with predators, they will groom the parent to be a trusting advocate, a trusting person, and then you'll let your guard down, and next okay, I'm going to the store or something, and now you left the person with that individual. And specifically too, single parents are one of the main targets too of this type of predator and sex trafficking type business, because when you're a single parent, they figure you don't have a lot of extended supports. You're very stressed. It's just you. There's not a lot of other people that you can rely on or gravitate to. So they profile you, and they will watch you, and then they begin to groom you with that trust. And next thing you know, your kid is there by themselves, and then they're grooming the child with certain type of touching to be like, this touch is okay. This is not a bad touch. This is a good touch. And they'll work their way psychologically into the child and manipulate them to allow the behavior to occur.
Wow. So in essence, in actuality, you are saying that this could happen virtually to any one of us. And
yes, absolutely. Absolutely. I've seen it happen where siblings have preyed on their brothers and sisters. I've seen minor arguments in the home where the child has left and then get pulled into gangs where they're trafficked. And then they have the pictures on social media. You'll see very provocative pictures where the man's head is in a cloak where you can't see his face or anything. And then the child is in a compromising sexual position, but the child has her face closed too because she don't want anybody to know it's her. And then they will come in with iPhones, like I said, clothes, expensive Jordan sneakers. And you're wondering, where did the child get this stuff from? You know, and they're getting it from the person who is, having them captive.
Those of you who are just weighing in tonight, we are speaking about how safe is your church. Subtopic, child predators, human trafficking, sex trafficking. Therefore, knowing all of this, Marjorie and Oscar, how can I personally protect my family? How can we protect our families?
Well, the number one thing is education. Know what to look for. And I'll share my screen again. And we need everyone right now, go to their website, the OURrescue.org, and under Join the Fight, people can either donate money, donate their time doing volunteering, but the most important thing is this third one here. Get trained. Get trained on spotting human trafficking. What are the telltale signs? And even better, what can you do once you see those signs? Because I told people before, I was in a situation where I saw something in the store. It was a man and a woman, an older man, a younger woman. Her body language was off. She was very tight. She wasn't walking freely. She was walking a little bit behind the guy. There was no conversation between them. All of these things that I kind of noticed. I mean, when I did the training, I said, oh, this is a sign. This is every single thing that I saw there. This training kind of put in perspective, like, yes, these are signs you need to look for. It could be domestic abuse and it could be human trafficking. We don't know, but you need training to spot what is going on. Also in the training is how to approach someone that you think is being trafficked. And you think, well, how would I approach? And it's in the training, it's very normal. You start a very easy conversation. That's a beautiful bracelet that you have. Where did you get that? I would like to get one of those for my daughter or for my wife or whatever, and then see the reaction. If she doesn't answer right away and looks to the person she's with before she answers, that's one sign. If she's answering with her face down and not interacting like a regular person would, that's another sign. So all these things that you put together and say, okay, this looks like it could be a problem. And then they give you here websites to go to, phone numbers to call to say, hey, this is what I'm seeing. What can I do? What's the situation? Do I need to get a license plate or something? Whatever it takes to start the process to track these people down. So the training is the most important, and everyone should at least go to the site, get trained, so you know what to look for. Now, knowing that, you know how to tell that to your children and your neighbors. So the training for me is the most important. And like I said, when you do that training, they ask you 5 questions on a scale from 1 to 10. How much do you know? And I did 1 and 2 all the way down. And after the training, it's 10 all the way down. Because that training, you can't get to the next page till you answer the questions correctly. Mm-hmm. So it's training.
Marjorie, like to weigh in?
Oh, absolutely. I think for us as parents, being aware of your child's social media, who are they connecting with on social media? Because we know social media is one of the big things where people can pretend to be somebody and that they're really not. So they can pretend to be their best friend, and then it's really an adult, or it's a pedophile or something like that. There is like some like if your child comes home with a bunch of stuff from a hotel or a motel keys, shampoo, the little shower cap, the little paraphernalia from motels or hotels, that's another sign. Your child is running away frequently. That's another sign. What else? Slangs, tattoos, markings, different things like that. Calling their partner daddy or mommy, or recruiting other people into what they're doing. They're hanging with people that's much older than them, that has more influence on them. Those are some of the telltale signs that something is going on.
Okay, thank you very much. Before Bishop Wolliston should weigh in and Pastor Mackenzie, let me just ask you one more question, Oscar and Marjorie. Why would you think that this human trafficking is growing so fastly? The rate that it's going? Why?
Money. Money. It's big business. Yes, it's big business. Harvesting the organs of children, prostitution. It's very lucrative.
It's been said $150 billion.
There it go.
That is serious money, honestly. The minds of men, all because of one thing called SIN, sin. Bishop Neville Wolliston, my friend, would you like to weigh in with your question?
Yes, absolutely. Oscar, thank you again. And Marjorie, welcome back. Thank you so much for joining us. It's not that I wasn't aware of this kind of situation in our country, but of course, it hasn't hit home for me because I don't have any personal situation as such. But looking at it from a bigger scale, it really suggests that there's something that we should all, especially as churches and ministers, be involved in. I want to ask a couple of questions, but my first question is, Oscar or Marjorie, in the 70s, if you remember, there was a war on drugs. If this is such a big deal, so to speak, why not declare a war on this kind of situation, just like you had on drugs, just like you had on gangs?
The way I look at it is I don't trust the government to look after me and my family. Everything that the government gets their hands on is for the government's benefit. So I'm looking to what I can do to protect the family, to protect kids. It's got to be a grassroots effort. When we talked last time, someone asked me, what does your local police do about sex trafficking? I went to the police chief. I live in a small town. I went to the police chief and I said, what do you guys do about sex trafficking? What do you physically do? And she put me in touch with the detective that handles the youth. And he says, we do nothing until the prosecutors come and give us a case. And he said, we just had a case, as Marjorie says, the girl ran away from home. She was befriended by someone that really understood her. And now she's in prostitution. And now they have to do the cleaning up to get her out and get her back into normalcy. So it's got to come from us. I told the story that I lived in Red Hook, Brooklyn. Pastor Mackenzie, Brooklyn, love Brooklyn. And I lived there, a couple of parts of Brooklyn. But when I went to Red Hook, they said, "Oh, it's a dangerous place. Don't go there." It was beautiful. It was absolutely there. There's shops, there's things going. And I said, well, I was told this is a dangerous place to live. And they said, well, if you would have come here 5 years ago, it was a lot of drugs, a lot of gangs, and they virtually ran the streets. But there was one principal that everyone loved because he really loved the kids. He'd walk them home when the parents weren't there. He was killed in a drug shootout. He was caught in the middle. That entire community went out the next day and pointed out every single one of them. And they're gone now because it takes the community to say enough.
Enough is enough.
So you're saying even though it's over $1 billion a year in revenue, and the government obviously is aware of this, correct?
It's aware, but this is what happened with Tim Ballard. As far as I know, he was sent on a mission to do a sex trafficking, disband this sex trafficking. And then when it was finished, he says, where are we going next? And they said, well, we have a different type of assignment. And he said, but there's still this sex trafficking going on. When are we going to do this? Well, we're not doing that today. We're doing something else. And like the video said, he quit his job, his pension, all the security. He says, no, this has got to stop.
So let me ask you also, you talked about education, educating ourselves as parents, pastors, individuals, regular people. Is rescuing these victims enough? If the US is the #1 consumer, whether it's porn or what have you, do you think it'll be an advantage or a situation where the public at large could be educated as to the results of what these behaviors will lead to? What do you think? Is that being done? Is that something that could be done?
It has to be done. It has to be done by us for what we're doing right now, which is like, hey, this is going on. It's about time we woke up and saw what's in the shadows. It's not spoken about.
And Bishop Neville, there are actual programs for teens and people who have women and kids who have been pulled out of sex trafficking, and they're I know another agency where few girls were trafficked, and they're just a cottage designed for young ladies who have been trafficked. And and they're separated, and they're given the different resources and the therapy to rebuild them and put them back in the community. So there are programs. I think for me, as far like Oscar was saying, I think it takes a village mentality. We all have to be involved with it. I think the trafficking runs such high level as well. I think it invades a lot of systems and a lot of high-powered people as well in it, where the money is. So I think that's why it's not as big as it needs to be. That's what I believe.
So let me ask you this: is this a David versus Goliath? I know David won, but is this a David versus Goliath kind of thing? You have high-level people involved in this, maybe government officials, law enforcement. Are we fighting something that we probably can't win eventually? What do you think?
Well, what we saw in the video was they had the traffickers, they had them arrested.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody got paid off. The judge got the money. These guys are gone.
Yep.
Look at the Epstein case. It goes all the way up to the British Crown.
Right.
So there are high-level people involved.
So again, I understand the grassroots. And I appreciate what you do and Marjorie do. But let's be honest, we're a small voice. We're not big and large, so to speak. Are we fighting with Goliath? I know David won eventually. Are we fighting against the grain, if you will?
Yes.
I don't think so. I think if we unite and truly unite and come together and really fight and make our voices heard. And I think we can push, and I think we can win. But a lot of people don't really know about trafficking neither and how deep it goes. So I think the education is a big part of being aware, gaining the insight, knowing who we need to go to in our community, our politicians, and write those letters and show up at their door and make those calls and let them know this is a serious issue in our community. Our voices need to be heard, and we're not going to stop until it gets heard.
Thank you. And look at the TV. You're saying, well, how are people going to know? When is the last time you saw an ASPCA commercial that, these poor dogs are being mistreated? Every 5 minutes, there's one of those commercials. There's nothing about human trafficking ever.
Wow.
Interesting.
So it seems as if this thing then may be here for quite some time. Pastor Mackenzie, how say you, young man?
Bless you, Bishop. Bless you to the panel, to Oscar, to Marjorie. God bless you. Very touchy topic tonight, obviously, but one that needs to be spoken of. I have a whole list of questions here. But Marjorie, you actually touched one of the points that I wanted to ask. As far as parents are concerned, and I want to deal with parents on two aspects. Now we have well, look at it in two different ways, I should say. We have the parents that willingly and knowingly let their children do whatever when it comes to social media, because they want their children to have independence and autonomy, and I don't want to be in my children's
permissive parenting, we call that. That's permissive parenting.
So what would you say to that parent that just says, I let my child do whatever, social media, it's harmless. And then the other parent, the single parent that you touched on as well, that works 2-3 jobs, that's not home, can't be home because she's working around the clock to pay the bills. She can't be as involved as she would like to be. How can she avoid, or how can she help her child to stay out of a situation like this? So both of those angles, if you can, both of you and Oscar, please.
I think too, as parents, we have to put parental monitoring, those restrictions on the iPhones and the iPads, things like that, to censor some of that stuff that's coming in, because we know that the social media, there's like no filter on there. Children are being exposed to pornography. You click on a game and then the pornography just comes right up and you're like, wait a minute, this is a children's website. So it does become challenging when you're like a single parent and you're working, but I think you have to place those monitors on the devices. There are also devices where tracking apps where you can look and see what your child has been on. So you can see exactly the websites, the apps, or whatever they've been on. So that way you can monitor it that way as well. If you are leaving them with, a trusted caregiver or provider, you have to make your expectations clear as well around their social media, what they can watch and what they cannot watch, and that they're monitored as well on that aspect.
Okay. And for
exactly. And if I can share the screen for a second, there are programs like this, Net Nanny, that it gives you the tools that you need to monitor the kid. It's screen management, website blocker, track the location. These things, unfortunately, is something that we need now, because at our age, we don't know what the kids know. They run circles around us in technology.
That's exactly that. That's a point I was going to bring up, Oscar, because parents are not as tech savvy as their kids. So, what does a parent do? He or she can't figure out how to set up the a nanny on the iPhone or the what have you. And the kids are, they can do what they want to do. How would you suggest they go around there?
For my family, some of them, I recommend them call like 311 because they have a lot of resources, a lot of information. They can connect you to resources that can help you navigate, through some of the websites and some of the things. Even I had when my therapists go into home, they will sit with the family and show them how to do certain things on the computer, on their tablet, how to install certain apps and teach them how to navigate and get through the computer. But when, like you were saying, Pastor McKenzie, when you have a permissive parenting style and you allow anything and you're allowing the space and all that, statistics show that when you're parenting, your child is more at risk to get into all type of trouble, behavioral issues that will affect you, people in the community. So that style, I wouldn't recommend because you'll get the benefit of that later and it won't be good.
Marjorie, I know Pastor McKenzie is going to jump back in, but real quick, what do you say to the parents? Because I think you're like myself, you were raised old school. What do you say to the parents that, their position is, I want my kid to have a better life than I did. For me, none of my kids had cell phones until they went to college at 18. I felt they were more responsible as opposed to 15, 14, 13, what have you. What do you say to a parent who, I want my kids to have what I didn't have. I want them to have the opportunities and the tablets and the iPhones and the Jordans and then you have another set of parents, they want to be friends with their kids. What do you say to those parents?
I always try to ask them, what are you trying to accomplish? And a lot of times, what I get? And when I'm finished weeding through it, and just like you said, Bishop Neville, the parent wants to be the child's friend. They don't want the animosity, the child to be mad at them. They don't want the child to be angry at them. So I have to start working on the parent's cognition around that anger. Where did that come from that you want your child to be your friend, or you don't want them to be mad at you? You don't want them to feel any type of way. And then I begin to look at, okay, well, they're mad at you now. You're the parent. Eventually they're going to come back to you and ask you for something because you're the provider of the home. So they do come back, when they're not mad. But I always work on that thought process of why the need is there for you to be their friend versus that parental role.
There's something that I heard the other day, which every child goes through 3 phases with their parents. First, they idolize, then they criticize, then they humanize. So first they idolize them because mom and dad, they know everything. Then when you're 12 years old to 25, you know nothing. And now they're 25 and they have their own kid and they go, oh, yeah, I understand why you didn't let me cross the street by myself. So that being a friend is letting your kid cross the street by himself because your friend would do that. You need to set the guidelines so you know where the child is going. If they've never been given any guidelines, they're just going to do whatever they want when they're 16, 17, and 30. Why can't I keep a job? Because I have to show up at 8 o'clock in the morning. My mom never had me get up at 8 o'clock in the morning. I can do what I want. So we're looking at that rolling out. And since I can do whatever I want, I can watch porn. I can stay out till 11 o'clock. I'm going to be friends with this person that's giving me a cell phone. They don't get that, hey, this might not be the right thing to do if you're their friend.
But it also goes to the child putting your button pushing as well. So a child also in a permissive parenting type situation, if they know your buttons and know what to push and throw the tantrum and begin screaming and falling out and you don't want to deal with that, you will give right into that just to keep that child quiet. And what we don't know is that causes a monster later. So when you're giving it when they're little and they're throwing the tantrum, you give it to them. We think it's cute. Okay, now it gets older. Now I'm not going to bed. I don't want to turn the TV off. I want to hang with my friends. And then when you don't let me hang with my friends, now I'm going to sneak out the house and I'm in the street by myself and could connect with the prostitute or the pedophile out there. So it's a lot of work, Bishop, around the thought process when I work with parents who are permissive parenting, and I bring out the 4 quadrants of parenting, the different parenting styles, different parenting communication styles. And it's really retraining their brain and their thought process, because some of that permissive parenting style, you'll find is rooted back to their childhood, and the abuse or some trauma that they faced in their childhood, and it manifests like the permissive parenting now and in the present.
Oh, man. Okay, before Pastor Mackenzie should weigh on in with another question, I know that he's itching to ask that question. For those of you who are coming on, the main topic tonight is how safe is your church? We are dealing with the child predators, human trafficking, and also sex trafficking. Pastor Mackenzie.
So I'm glad you said that, because we do want to get into the church side, but I have one more question before we get into the church side. Back to social media, because this is one of my pet peeves.
Yep.
Say it. One of my biggest pet peeves when it comes to social media is that there are people that put their entire business on social media. You'll wake up in the morning, hi Facebook, I just brushed my teeth. It's 12 o'clock. Hi Facebook, I just had ackee and saltfish. It's 2 o'clock. You're telling everybody what you do throughout the entire day. It is not a smart thing to do. Can you please speak to the parents and the children about the importance, especially, and you mentioned something earlier, that these predators, they look to see people that are having bad days. They like to identify these bad days. And a lot of times we tell everybody about our bad days. And all of a sudden you just get that message on Facebook, hey, what's going on? Is there something that you want to talk about? So let's talk about that. And also, there are a lot of our people that are hungry for clout, hungry for to be popular. So every request that they get on Facebook, they accept it. Boop, yep, I don't know you, but accept. And everybody that messages them on Facebook Messenger and Instagram, they're quick to answer it. Please address them.
Well, Marjorie said earlier, it basically on the internet, no one knows you're a dog. You can mask yourself as anything you want to be. And as you said, the predators know the game. The children don't know the game, and the parents don't know the game. So they're already outnumbered from day one. And we cannot control the internet now. It is just way out of, I did a seminar on cybersecurity. The internet was never set up for safety. It's like trying to stop a mosquito with a chain link fence. It's not going to work. There's no way. It's way out of control. You were talking about the porn sites. It's like you go to a porn site, it says, are you 18? Click yes.
That's it.
I think too, in regards to that is turning off your location. Have children or you not putting your location everywhere that you go. Everybody doesn't need to know that you're at the Great Adventures. I'm at the Wendy's, and where somebody can drive right over to the Wendy's and be waiting for you in the van or somewhere plotting, and because they track your whereabouts through social media too. So that's not a wise thing to do. It's not a wise thing to post your house neither. You know what I mean? When you go on vacation, it's not wise to post that until probably you come back from vacation. You know what I mean?
Yep.
But I want everybody to see. I want everybody to see that I'm on vacation in Jamaica at Negril. I want them to see that I'm here.
Yeah, and that's
where,
cool.
And where do you live? What's your address? The whole family's out for 2 weeks. That's all I need to know.
Yeah.
Or mom and dad are out on vacation.
And I think it's important.
It is home. And they know that because on social media, mom and dad finally left. They've gone to
Yes. So they know the child is home all by themselves. Yeah, I'm here. Anybody? I have kids from the group home that I used to work that I still connect with, who have been in prostitution and stuff like that. And you'll see them post on social media. Yeah, I'm here all by myself. Who want to chill? I'm like, what are you doing? Do not post that on the. I'm like, don't do that.
Wow.
And it's prevalent. And you're like, even in the church setting, you can't, you want to trust everybody, but you cannot trust everybody. Even like I was saying, even if in the church setting, if kids are going to the bathroom, they shouldn't be going by themselves or just with one adult. It should be two people to watch out and to observe, because we know that pedophiles and predators they target children's ministries, children's choirs, those type of functions. So you have to just be very alert. You have to observe the body language. Are they putting a child to the side more, and that seems to be their favorite child that they're giving that special attention to? You just have to be very watchful in the natural and in the spirit.
Let me ask the both of you a question again. Who would you say are the main victims of human trafficking? The main victims?
Right now, we're looking at all across the board in age range, but the human trafficking that's going on with children, especially for sex, for forced labor, and for organ harvesting. I mean, that's a package there that's easily sold. As you get older, it gets different, but the children are being trafficked because it's so easy. And right now, we're getting how many unaccompanied minors are coming across the border? How many of those are going to end up in human trafficking? If you look at the numbers down in Texas, in California, those numbers, you're close to the border, and that's very easy picking for these people.
So, Oscar, quick question in regards to organ harvesting, and then I know we're going to talk about the church. Who's benefiting from this?
Just the traffickers, the people that are making money. It's with a child prostitute, you're making money every time they're being prostituted. So you can run them 3 or 4 times a day, and that they're sold 3 or 4 times.
Let me rephrase that then. Sure. In terms of the organ harvesting, who are getting these organs? Which institutions are these organs that are utilized in the United States for organ transplants, or they're being shipped, or they're being sent overseas? What is the general consensus?
That I don't know. That's my next question that I will be looking at. Like, what do the cops know in the general area? But it's a black market for organs. There are all these people that need organ transplants. The waiting list is a year long, and if you know someone that knows someone and you can get a black market part, there's always a demand for black market.
So you kill somebody and take their liver.
Yes, that is what that has been happening to children. They did autopsies on the children. Their organs is missing.
Wow. So then it means that you've got doctors involved. You've got bankers involved. Most likely you've got politicians.
Systemic.
This is big. Okay, then let me ask this question to the both of you. Then what are some of the factors which contribute to human trafficking?
Poverty.
Poverty.
Poverty. They have families that sell their children off traffickers because they need the money.
Yep.
That's how bad it is.
Here in the US?
Everywhere.
My. Just hearing that, let me say it hurts, honestly. Just hearing that, honestly, and especially now that I have like a grandson, it hurts even more. Okay, for those who are just coming on, okay, the question is, how safe is your church? We're dealing with child predators, human trafficking, and sex trafficking. Marjorie, you said some things very, very interesting. Well, both of you did a few moments ago. You mentioned the signs that a child is being sexually abused. Yes, you did. Certain signs that we can look for. Do you think that we should look for these things also in the church, Sunday school?
Absolutely. We should look for those signs. We should look if a child is isolating, if a child is wetting themselves, a child is withdrawn. You know, I think it's very important. The child is angry. Anger is another sign that some type of something is going on. Sadness, like I said, isolation, behavior, disruptive behavior, acting out and not knowing where that's coming from. It's unusual. You know what I'm saying? A child has been behaving a certain way and they have a certain demeanor. Now all of a sudden they're acting out. Absolutely. They come to choir rehearsal and they have all type of new gadgets too. You could just call, hey, I like the new phone you purchased for such and such. And the parent might be like, I didn't buy that. You know, so it's very important to monitor. If the kids come into the church with older people, older peers, people you've never seen before, they come to church with, you want to be mindful of that. That's another sign to look for. Are they hanging with older people? You know, did they come to church and they appear to be under the influence? That's another sign, because if they're under the influence, where are they getting the substance from? You know, who gave it to them?
Wow. Just hearing this, honestly, it makes you think. Then when we talk about these things, then doesn't it sound like slavery, Oscar?
It is absolutely. It's like I said before, slavery never went away. It just changed forms a little bit. So it is the same type of slavery, the same forced into sex, into working. It's forced against your will. It's the same slave trade. It just has shifted over a little bit.
Marjorie, go ahead, Bishop. Go ahead.
That's okay, man of God. Go ahead, please.
Marjorie, can I ask you a question back to the church?
Yes.
So is it safe to say that, because again, church today is not how church was yesterday, last week, last year, my mama's church, grandma's church, the whole different ball game.
Yes.
Yep.
Are you then saying that we should vet potential youth leaders, Sunday school teachers, choir directors, the whole nine? Because I've been with the church since the church was formed, what have you. I mean, why do I have to go through all of this now? I mean, you all know me. How do you respond to something like that? And would people push back against getting checked out?
They may, if they got something to hide.
Ooh.
You know, you just present it as, you know, this is a best practice policy for the church. We want to make sure our children are supported. We want to make sure our church is supported. We want to make sure that they're in a loving and a caring environment. And we want to make sure everyone has the best interest of the church, period. They may push back. But I think everybody should be vetted at this present time and the current climate that we're in. There should be background checks. Just a note, though, it may not come up with like any type of pedophilia or something like that, because like I said, that thing is so sneaky. People who engage in pedophilia and that type of stuff may not show up for years, and they've been doing it for a while. So that may not manifest, but it is good to do a background check. And it's always good when you're going to do it, make it as strength-based as possible, Bishop. Say the best 4 strength-based things before you say one negative. It's always 4 strength-based to one negative comment.
Got you.
Then question now. Hear me. If a child predator comes to the church, okay, what do we do? How do we protect? How can we protect? Should we have guns in church? What do we do? It's possible. The church is opened up to anyone and everyone, as you know. Jesus said, come, the good, the bad, and the ugly. What do we do? Or how should we go about things?
I think where we're at too, we should have cameras as well in churches. There should be surveillance. There should be monitoring. I think if you do find out that someone is doing something to children in there, to call the police immediately and let the authorities handle the rest of that matter. Don't wait. Notify the police immediately and report them.
Definitely. I think most states you're mandated to do that. It's by law, you're required to do that.
Yes.
So in regards to the cameras, I completely agree. And even as we have spoken in our meetings, church buses, if there's a driver, there should be a woman, a female patron on board. Even going to the bathrooms, things of these. And as leaders, I think something that we also have to do is don't be so quick to a point. Don't be so quick. That brother runs off the street and he's hyped, and he knows the word, and he can bring down fire from heaven just like Elijah.
He got saved in prison.
He got saved in prison. He
knows the word.
He knows the word. And a lot of times we're just so quick to a point because we appoint because there's just nobody else, and we just put people in position without knowing exactly who they are. I think that this is important, that there be a vetting process, especially when it comes to our children. I would never want to be the pastor of a church and hear that a child in my congregation has been subject to some type of sexual. I don't know what I would do. I honestly don't know what I would do.
And even with mentoring programs with children, never let just one person be mentoring the child or going out on the outing. You know what I mean? You don't want to put yourself in a situation where it's just that person and that child. You want to make sure there's enough people around, that situation as well. Now, you don't want to be scary and spooky, but you just want to be safe.
Amen. With this particular subject matter, I find that it's something that a lot of people may not weigh into, if it has not affected them. But you'll find that once it comes nigh their house, that's when they'll be pushing forward. What do you think, Marjorie and Oscar, we can do to get more people aware of what's going on? Because we know that this is over $150 billion business that's going on, and it's happening in all of our states. And there are some states it happens in more than other states. What can we do to get the message across to everyone?
Well, I will go back to education and going to the operation to OUR Rescue website and going there and being trained and seeing what's going on. As if you donate money, you are called an abolitionist. I got my 1-year certificate in January. I also got, and I'll change my background, this book, which is Our Children Are Not for Sale. And it is, I can't read this without losing it. You got a 7-year-old child in Guatemala. I mean, it's a crime against humanity. You don't want to know it's real, but you have to.
I think too, we should use social media as well to make it known about the child trafficking and what to do and posting different things for the resources that we find. We can reach so many people through social media as well. Even having people come to your church and educate your church about trafficking and what are the signs, what are the risk factors. People don't know, the population don't know that there's different indicators. There's high indicators to sex trafficking. There's moderate indicators to sex trafficking. There are federal indicators to indicate someone who has been trafficked. So people don't know these things. So I think, we have to learn the information, and then we pass the information to our village, and we continue to train other people, and they pass it to other people. So I think we have to be the voice, and we have to train one another. And then you, Bishop, take the information and train your congregation. And then you, Pastor Richard, you take it and train your congregation as well. And I think there should be groups about good touch and bad touch for children. They have books on Amazon where you begin to teach your child from early about good touch and bad touch. Don't wait till the uncle or somebody else come in or the school to start telling them what's good touching and what's bad touching, because they will teach them something wrong. But I think it starts with us learning the information and passing it on generationally.
Bishop, can I take that same question and work at a different angle?
Of course, sure.
For those that may ask, my question is, what would you say to those that may say, what does that even have to do with me? I've never had anybody in my family that has, been trafficked. So what does this have to do with me? Why are we even doing this topic?
Because it could happen. There's been cases where you living in a nice neighborhood, and Oscar knows, the person was holding the girls captive for years and years and years, and they're 2 houses down from you. You know what I mean? So this stuff happens right in your own backyard. And sometimes you live in neighborhoods and you see a lot of traffic coming out of houses. You go into a doctor's office, or you going into a store and you see with a younger child, that's another sign. I think it affects us because it's all around us, and it happens right in our very neighborhoods. And I don't think we really know, and it does impact it, because that's another child that is lost. That's another purpose that has been stolen from them. You know what I'm saying? That's another gift that is gone, another pastor or apostle gone. It affects the kingdom when a child is trafficked and they're killed or they're missing.
Marjorie, I know that you're a woman of faith and you're definitely a minister of the gospel in the way that you minister. If Jesus was on earth today with us, don't you think this would be one of or his priority when it comes to children?
Yes.
So leaders, let's look at it from that standpoint. What did Jesus say? Suffer the little
children
to come unto me. Can you speak to that, to the leaders?
Oh, my goodness gracious. That's a whole word right there, Bishop. Jesus loved the children. He loves them, and he wants them, to be a part of the kingdom, to be a part of our village, for us to nurture them, for us to sow into them, not just our children, but other children. You know what I'm saying? We are pouring into these children, and they're ours. The families that I service, and I work with them, those are my families too. I'm responsible for those children as well. And Jesus has gave us a mandate to make sure we protect our children, not just your children, our children, for the kingdom. We need them for our future and to build the kingdom. If we do not have the children there, who's going to build the kingdom when the generals of the kingdom are gone?
Wow.
Another thing that we should also look at, and I believe that Marjorie really can minister about this, that sex traffickers do look normal.
Hey.
Then we look at the devil. Some people believe that the devil has got horns coming out of his head and so forth, but definitely not. The most good-looking, handsome people sometimes are indeed devils. So sex traffickers do look normal. And that's why even people sometimes coming to your church may have certain things that they're hiding behind a beautiful suit. behind a beautiful dress, and so forth. Marjorie, talk to me about things like these, please, because sometimes the devil does not come with horns, but comes with beautiful lips and beautiful eyes, and 36, 24, 36. Talk to me. Talk to
Come
me.
on. Well, you know, the Bible says that he comes as an angel of light. So
Yes,
that tells me that the devil can transform, and that he's manipulative, and that he can conform his way to gain you, for you to gain that type of trust, you know, to ease his way in there. It's very psychological how they profile you, how they're dressed, try to fit into your clique, try to get close to you. It's all psychological. The way they dress, their mannerisms, and can put on that performance like they're on Broadway. It's a lot of times it's not the people who look crazy and they're walking down the street and they look cuckoo is the ones to watch out for. It's the ones who are blending in like a chameleon.
Wow.
To be on guard for.
So, Bishop, you said something today in your start just now in your start the spirit, because you said that some of them wear suits and they wear dresses, but the truth of the matter is some of them even wear collars.
Oh, do that.
Which is why we, even as leaders, have to be careful of who we're inviting into our churches and our pulpits, because they are very influential. Now, I'm going to leave that right there.
No, it's true. And you've seen it. We've seen it. All of us have seen it if we've been in church for a long time, where you had people in the pulpit with the collars and everything, and then they're sleeping with the women in the congregation, you know, which is another form of abuse, because you're in a position of authority. They are under you, and you are using that position of power to abuse and manipulate people.
Well, this is a conversation that's important for all of us to have. And I believe that this is something that we should try our best to get out to the entire congregation. Now, those who are just weighing in, let me also say this one more time. Our topic tonight is how safe is your church? Why? Because there are child predators that are around, human trafficking that is taking place, sex trafficking also that is taking place. And this sometimes is going on next door to us. Sometimes it can be found even in our congregation. Now, let me ask this question. How can the body of Christ, the church, really come in and get our hands into this? What can the church really do? What should we do as a body of people? Because I believe that the church should definitely play a part, and a very, very big part. As the question was asked, if Jesus Christ was on earth, would not he make this a priority?
Maybe he is making it a priority now through this, what we're doing right now. It's time to wake up to say, what can we do as the little people? Don't expect, the government to come in and fix anything. What can we do? What can we personally take responsibility for? And that is to learn ourselves and go out and teach. Like I said, I'm not an expert at child sex trafficking and Operation Underground Railroad. I support them, and from what I've learned, this is something that needs to go out. And this is why I'm on the show today, saying we need the leaders of the community to be the standard bearers, to say this is what needs to happen, and follow me. This is what we're doing.
Oscar, I'm a single dad, a single mom, got 3 kids, working 2 jobs. I want to get involved. I love to. It's touching my heart. What can I do? I can't sign up for training because, I'm working 2 jobs and I got the kids. I really want to do something, but of course I'm limited. My hands are tied. Outside of that, what can I as a single parent or a single person do to help, assist, or get involved?
Well, absolutely. Well, when you say you don't have time for training, the site that I showed you earlier, that training is a half hour. You can literally, to be vulgar, sit on the toilet and get the training done. It doesn't take a lot. Once you have that training, now you can say, okay, I've just learned this. I can tell my child this, and I can tell my pastor this, And I can, I can't do a lot, but I can point people to do something.
So I don't have to physically get involved in the operation per se, but I can educate myself and teach others. Is that what you're saying?
Exactly. And
so everybody can do
the littlest bit of education is more than everybody knows. So you're already above the fold with what you know. And Bishop earlier says, Oscar is the expert. I am no expert. I just know a little bit more than the guy next to me. So what they say in the land of the blind, the one-eyed man is king.
It's king.
So a little, but I'm far from the expert, but I am learning every day and interacting every day to see what I can do to push this forward so more people can find out.
That's
what had started you to get involved in this?
Like I said, I'm a Legal Shield associate, and our line of sponsorship last January, or before last January, found out about Operation Underground Railroad, and they said, we are going to sponsor, a part of every sale that we do is going to go to Operation Underground Railroad. So let me do one more thing. Great, here we go. I'm going to share my screen again. And this is what we can do. I spoke to a woman the other day. She's an author. And I spoke to her 2 days ago. And she talked to me, especially because we met online in another group. And she saw the shirt and said, "What is Operation Underground Railroad?" I said what it is. She goes, "Oh my God, that's incredible." She lives in Chicago. And I just got this email on the 6th. She signed up as a volunteer. She's getting more information. And now she's donating a portion of every book she sells to Operation Underground Railroad. So that little connection with that person that wanted to know what this was. And she's like, and she's doing a lot more than I can do financially, but you don't know what connection you're going to make that's going to make that big of a difference.
Are all you funded from private organization sources?
It's all private, or like they said in the video, Tim Ballard left his well-paying security job with pension and everything else, threw it all away and said, "This is what I'm doing." And he's not looking back.
Oh.
And I think there's a practical way to get involved. Like when you see on social media, somebody is posting that a child is missing, for you to share it. Yeah. It takes nothing to hit the share button and say, "Have you seen this child? Can you assist? Can you help?" That is the biggest thing, because you have reach and somebody else's has reach and there's another reach there. So I think that's the part. Another way you can help too, if you couldn't do the formal training, is to be aware of your environment. If something looks suspicious, if a man is with an older child or peers, or it doesn't look right, it's okay to call the police. If it's wrong, you're wrong. But at least you called and they did an interview to see, is this child's father? Is this person supposed to be with this child? And then they can investigate further. I think being aware of your surroundings, when something doesn't feel right or sit right, make that call.
Would that not cross over into profiling, Marjorie?
When it comes to kids and trafficking and stuff that I've seen, I would do it. It may be a little profiling, but what's the risk? If you see a child with somebody and they look bruised, or they're very sheltered and they're looking like this and their head is down, and if you ask them, "Hey, how are you doing today?" and they're looking at the person before they speak, or before they speak to you, and it looks very suspicious, you can kind of feel what feels right and what doesn't feel right, and then you go ahead and call 911. I'd rather you call 911 than don't call 911.
Oscar, that site that you said we can go on to be trained, ourrescue.org, I went on it, and it's 1 hour now. It's an hour. 1 hour. It's no longer 30 minutes. It's 1 hour, but it's worth it. But it's worth it, honestly. You can go on and you can say spend 15 minutes, and then when you get back on, it'll take you back to where you had left off, and so forth. So you can do it at your leisure. Now, I do know that time is really going, but let me just try to get this question in. Marjorie started to answer it, but let me just ask the question. Is there a way that we can know whether or not we are being targeted for human trafficking? Is there a way that we can know that we are being targeted for human trafficking?
Marjorie
Go ahead, Oscar. What did you say?
I'm saying Marjorie sees it in her work. She gets the end result when you're targeted.
Mm-hmm.
So the targeting is the grooming and the nice and the familiarity and all of that stuff that, and again, what I'm looking at, what Marjorie's saying is that a regular way that someone would approach someone? I mean, someone you don't know is being super nice to the children, a little more than would be a normal interaction with a child. That should start the suspicion going. How far is this going to go? Are they being nice because are they nice to everybody, the adults and the children, or are they just being nice to the children? Little tiny things you start seeing.
But can you know if you're an adult? Say, for instance, a nice, voluptuous young lady.
And being mindful of your environment. If you're coming out of your environment, you see like certain cars parked there that are not familiar to your environment. Someone just comes out of the blue and just starts talking to you, and you don't know them, and they're really persistent on you coming with them or taking them somewhere. They want to meet with you. Come with me, and they're very persistent. That's a sign. Like I said, what else? The vehicles, being mindful of your area. Even just some will come outrightly and just ask you for sex.
Now, my last question is this. It seems as if more women are being targeted than men. Women are being targeted than men, according to the statistics. Now, why would you say more women are being targeted? Is it because of sex? Or is it that women are more gullible? Or what?
For me, just from what I've seen and experienced, it's the vulnerability that I see in regards to more of the girls that I've worked with been trafficked rather than the boys. There have been boys that have been trafficked. There have been, but it more with the women. It may be a more level of vulnerability. I can't really call it. As to why more women are trafficked than boys. I really don't know, and I'll have to look that up and really see. But from what I've seen, it's more women. For me, I see it as there's more risk factors for them. I think with boys, they're like, oh well, he's a boy, he's strong, he can fight, he can go outside, he'll be all right, and I don't know.
Marjorie, as far as you know, are there any networks that been broken up, like you have drug networks, gang networks? Are there any networks that you know of that's been broken up for this kind of behavior?
Not in my area. I know like it kind of happened afterwards where the police got involved and they found out the child was trafficking. But I personally have not heard of any rings being broken up around the Bronx or Brooklyn or what in Westchester. I haven't heard of it.
Would you
Not
say
to say it didn't happen.
Would you say there is a network, or is more for individual kind of thing, just for the money? Or would you say it's more of a organized network?
Oh, I believe it's an organized network. I believe it's systemic. Absolutely. I believe it's organized.
Wow. So as church folks, let me say this, that when people are coming in and we are putting them in positions where they will be looking after little kids or even teenagers and things like that, we as ministers should definitely make sure that some type of background check is done. Very, very much important, because one of the things we don't want to do is to let the sheep go right there where the wolves are and so forth. And that sometimes we've got some wolves that are dressed in sheep's clothing, wolves that are dressed in sheep's clothing. And I believe that this is a conversation that needs to be had. And I think that this is a conversation that should be had right there in the church. Because eventually, I am sure that someone in the church will be experiencing something like this, one of our children, and so forth. So it's something that we definitely should make sure that we get across to one and all. Now, let me say this, that after hearing all of this, what should we really take away from what we've heard and what has been said? Because certainly this is a topic that I believe that we definitely should get out and get out strongly to the people that are out there. Bishop Neville Wolliston.
Bishop, one word comes to mind amongst many others, and it's education. Educate, educate, educate. As pastors, leaders on this platform, we have a certain degree of education when it comes to theology and the Bible, the Word of God, and different things. I don't think we should disconnect from the real world, from reality. And, again, here's the bottom line. Everybody in church can't preach or sing on the choir or sing in a praise team or play music or be in a dance ministry. So I think it's important if we present this and put it out there, this could be something that somebody may connect with and say, you know what, I think this is something that I can put my time and energy and resource into, because everybody can't preach. And unfortunately, it seems as if today everybody wants to preach, but everybody can't preach. But there are other things that we can do. So Bishop, I would say education, educate our parishioners, start with us as leaders. And as Oscar gave the simple, just breakdown where you can watch a video for an hour, half an hour, what have you, and take it from there. So education is key.
Education is key. Pastor Mackenzie, we've heard a lot and we've said a lot. What do you think, sir, we should take away from this conversation tonight?
I also agree with what Bishop said. Educate ourselves and educate others. Another thing, be careful of what you are sharing with the world. A lot of times we put things on social media and we're like, I only have 75 friends, so it's not going to go anywhere. But one of your friends can share it. Another one of that friends can share it. And all of a sudden your business now reaches the every quadrant of the world. So be careful of what you're putting or what you're sharing with the world, because the world is looking. Another thing, get involved, because it just may save a life.
Get involved. It may just save a life. Marjorie, what should we really take away from this conversation? Seeing that you are one that knows what it is to be a daycare specialist, so forth. What should we take away from all of this tonight? Take your time.
Mm-hmm. I think what we should take away from this is that this impacts us, whether it has not impacted our immediate family. That every child that is taken is a child taken from the kingdom. It's a resource being taken. It's another prophet. It's another apostle. It's another worship leader. It's another kingdom builder that has been taken from us. And I think we need to look at it from a lens of a community and a village and a kingdom lens, and really be empathetic to what is happening to these children, because it could be your children. It could be mine. That's just the way it is. Some people, families that I've dealt with, they would have never imagined that could happen to them. And they live right there in the Bronx, right there in Westchester, right there in Mount Vernon, locally, and kids are being taken. So you can't take that it's not my approach when we are kingdom people, and because they're a part of us.
They are indeed a part of us. So we want to thank God also for Oscar. Oscar, you've been a tower of strength, young man, and so forth. You have delivered the wisdom that God has blessed you with to us, and for that we do applaud you. With all that has been said tonight, okay, what should we take away from this conversation? Please take your time. Go ahead.
First, I want to thank you for the young man part. And second, this is not the end of the conversation. This
No,
is
sir.
day one of a long conversation. This is the stepping stone that we need to, what's our next level? What do we do next after this? And Phil and I are working on getting someone from Operation Underground Railroad to come on the show and talk what they know, the real experts on what's going on and what can be done. And again, go to YouTube and look up Operation Underground Railroad. There are 2-minute videos, there's an hour movie and everything in between. Find out more. And the more videos you watch, the more you see how bad it really is. You know, when I get a book like this, that's this thick, that is poems and artwork and works from survivors.
Mhm.
And it just breaks your heart. And it's like, we have to do something today.
Certain subjects, when we deal with them, really, really hurts. And honestly, this is one subject that the more we talk about it, it's like the more tears come to my eyes, and so forth. But it's a reality. It's something that we do have to have a conversation about, because we don't know when it's going to come knocking at our door and so forth. But if this is a $150 billion business a year, ladies and gentlemen, then this is vast, and we need to have the conversation. Well, I just want to thank God tonight for Bishop Dr. Neville Wolliston that weighed in. Thank God for Pastor Richard McKenzie. Thank God for the lovely, the delightful Marjorie Riley, and for the man of wisdom himself, for Oscar Capel. Listen, indeed, certainly, it's been a pleasure to have all of you on the Bishop's Corner tonight. Listen, may God bless you richly. May God keep you. All being well, we'll see you hopefully next week. And those of you that weighed in next week, same time on the Bishop's Corner. God bless you.